Hello everybody, welcome to 2022 on Will Carmack's channel. The first tutorial back in the new year is really exciting. It's how to use Element 3D to 3D track in your models of Star Wars ships. This is your X-Wings, your TIE Fighters, the free downloads that you can get from Video Copilot if you buy Element 3D. So I'm going to show you today the easiest way to 3D track in Element 3D elements. I'll even show you text if we have extra time. So 3D tracking a Star Wars ship as well as 3D tracking in 3D text. It's actually super simple to do. All these other tutorials I've seen, I think, overcomplicated. Before we get started, I would also like to mention that this video is sponsored by Squarespace. Alright. So here is my footage in Adobe Premiere. I have this drone shot from Albania that my friend Artez took, and I'm going to put a Star Wars ship on the sandbar in this little river. All right, let's right-click this clip and open it in After Effects. And I have a coffee off to the side. Yummy. Okay, all right, now that we have our footage, the first thing that we need to do is camera track or 3D track this footage. And you do this like any other footage. You click on it, and in the tracker panel, and now what you're gonna do is hit track camera. And now during this part, it will 3D track your camera automatically for you. So maybe you can book a trip to your next dream country. You could learn Spanish. If you're religious, you could pray right now. If you're not religious, maybe you could go on a run. Not like those things are mutually exclusive. If you're also religious, you can also go on a run if you want. I have no bone in this fight. Okay. Sorry, I don't know what I... And check this out. We have all of these beautiful tracking dots. I like to call them Skittles because they are so colorful. And check this out. We got them throughout the whole track. This is a beautifully 3D tracked scene. And so now you can see that these targets pop up where these tracking points have created data. And we will choose one that's flat and looks really stable. Like this one right here. So we're gonna 3D track where we're gonna put a ship, right? So where this target is, I can totally imagine a TIE Fighter. And so let me right click on this target, and this is super important. Click Create Null and Camera. And so now we have a null over here. You can see it. There's a little red square, the null. So look, it's just going along, 3D tracking, and this is going to be the foundation in which we create a Star Wars ship in the sand. So now, next step is come up to Layer, New, and Solid. We're gonna name this TIE Fighter and hit OK. We always use black solids or any kind of solid when we're doing Element 3D. So I will look up the effect element in the effects and presets panel and drag that onto my TIE Fighter black solid layer. We will come to scene setup. This effect will work with literally any of these things in your starter pack physical from Video Copilot. I'm just gonna use the Star Wars ships because it's topical and relevant. All right, so check it out. We have this giant TIE Fighter in our scene, and in the element settings over here in the left, if we drop down group 1, this is where all of our position and transform settings are. So if I drop down particle replicator, you can see it has a position X, Y, and Z. So this position X, this position Y, this position Z. So this is the easiest part that I think may sound hard. But if I hit the letter P on my track null, I can see here the exact X, Y, and Z positions. X, Y, and Z. And so all we're gonna do is copy these position settings to the Element 3D layer. So if I copy the X position here under my track null and I paste it to the X position in my Element 3D, bam, and then I'll take my Y position from my track null and paste that to my Y position on my Element 3D layer, and I will copy my Z position from my track null and paste it on my Element 3D layer. And look at that. It is actually now perfectly tracked into the scene, but of course our TIE Fighter looks a little too big. So if you drop down particle look, particle size is basically another word for scale. So if we drop down particle size, we can move our TIE Fighter. And if you just scroll up a little bit, you'll see rotation. And we can just rotate this ship to be however position we want. Maybe right here. I will scale it up a bit, maybe that big, and I'll put it on the sand right here. And let's watch that back. It's not bad, right? We have a TIE fighter 3D tracked into our scene. Look at that. Camera just goes right by it. So yeah, that's basically how you 3D track in like an Element 3D layer. I will also show you how to give this a shadow, because right now it totally does just look like a ship on top of sand. No biggie, but it could possibly be a little more convincing with a shadow underneath of it. So pay attention very closely. So you see how we have all these different groups in Element 3D. These different groups are just different folders of 3D objects that we have in the scene setup. And so group 1 is obviously the TIE fighter. And so we're gonna put the shadow in group 2. So let's click scene setup. So if we come up to create, and you see here this plane, let's create that. And you can see it here. What we're gonna do to this plane is we're actually going to make it as big as the TIE fighter. And we're actually going to take it out of this group folder, because you see it's in group 1. Remember, we wanna put it in group 2. So I'm gonna drag it underneath all of these layers. And so now it has its own little viewer here in the scene setup. And we're gonna switch from number 1 to number 2, because we're gonna put it in group 2. And this is extra important. If you drop down the plane model and you click on the default material that it is, you want to scroll to the very bottom of this settings menu and you will see matte shadow. So let's click on matte shadow. What this does is it turns the layer invisible, and it can only be turned on if you select shadows within Element. If that's confusing, don't worry. You'll see after we hit OK, nothing actually happens. We have to come down to group 2 and just do that same thing all over again, where we copy the X position and paste it to the X position. And this is the track null. We copy the Y position of the track null, paste it into the Element 3D, and then copy the Z position, and then we paste that into the Element 3D Z position. Bam. And so it's hard to tell, but now that shadow layer is this box here, and we're going to put it underneath of the Star Wars ship. And so watch what happens. Now that we have copied the shadow plane to the same track null as the TIE fighter, we can come down to render settings in Element 3D, and if we go to Ambient Occlusion, we can check this box here which enables it. And you can see what has happened. With it, without it. With it, without it. And so we can crank up the ambient occlusion intensity for the shadows. And actually it looks like I'm going to have to use rotation to change my shadow layer a little bit. So we can see it right here. So recap, if we enable ambient occlusion, it gives our TIE fighter all these shadows, and that makes it more realistically tracked into the scene. If we want to take it a step further, under render settings, we can go to physical environment. And if we go to this override layer and we actually select the clip that we're tracking, it will just blend the color in better. You see that? Now it's taking color information from the scene it's actually 3D tracked into. If you just hit none, this is the default colors of the actual ship, but we like to set it to the actual clip that we're tracking. We can change the lighting and whatnot over here. I can make it even brighter. I can probably move this ship a little bit. So bam, that is kind of a detailed breakdown of how you 3D track in a Star Wars ship. Pretty great, right? I mean, I'm honestly really impressed with how this looks. I'm just gonna move it around just to see if the 3D track kind of works. If I have changed the position around just a little bit to see if it will 3D track in multiple different locations from one track null, and it does look like it can. And so you're not confined to exactly where your track null is, you can move it around a little bit. This is pretty sick. It's like the camera is flying right by an actual TIE fighter. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you 3D track in a Star Wars ship. I mean, look at that, it's beautiful. It's like the camera is flying right by an actual TIE fighter. Okay, bam! That's the tutorial. How to use Element 3D to track in Star Wars ships. Pretty freaking sick, right? Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section down below. There's also a really easy way to 3D track text within here. I thought I was maybe gonna cover it in this video, but I'm not. I just decided that I wanna keep this one very Star Warsy. Okay, so I hope you liked today's tutorial. And now I would like to thank the sponsor of this video, Squarespace. From online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform. Let's say you're a photographer and you want to showcase your work to the world. Well, just use Squarespace, because within Squarespace they have portfolios and galleries. So you can upload your photography work into these beautiful templates in which you can showcase your art to the world. And not to mention, these are award-winning designer templates. So you're showing your photography to the world in an extra professional manner. And not to mention, if you want to get around, share your work, share your accounts, Squarespace has amazing connected services. So you can embed your SoundCloud into your website. You can embed your Instagram into your website. So anybody who comes to your website can find you on all of your other social medias. So stay connected with Squarespace. Connect all of your socials through one website. And finally, let's talk about Squarespace's amazing analytics. If you're selling stuff, or if you want to gauge traction or activity coming to your website, there's no better way to analyze it than Squarespace's analytics. Sorry, I'm getting aggressive. Because I love it. You'll be able to know everybody who's clicking on anything, buying your stuff, etc. So stay hip with your audience and know where they're all coming from with Squarespace's analytics. And the best part is I got you a discount code. So if you go to squarespace.com/Will Carmack, you'll get 10% off your first website or domain. So check out Squarespace, get a website using them, and thanks for sponsoring this video, Squarespace. I hope everyone enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you all sign up for Squarespace. Where there's a will, there's a way. My name is Will, and have a nice day.